Good afternoon. And happy Sabbath. Come on, folks. Good afternoon. And happy Sabbath. It's good to see you. Thank you very much for coming this afternoon. Thank you, Tricia, for inviting me. Thank you guys for having me. Pastor, elders, thank you for allowing me to come again. It's always a privilege to come to Chelmsford. Chelmsford is far, but it's good to be here nonetheless.
Amen.
After 4 hours of driving yesterday, let me leave it alone. Let's pray and we'll begin. Dear Lord, please may you be with us as we look into your word. Speak to our hearts and please transform our lives. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Today's theme is what?
Surviving and thriving.
Come again? Surviving or thriving, or surviving to thriving? To thriving. When Trisha called me, I was telling about the theme. What was the original theme? He had an original theme that he wanted to go with, and he said we decided as a youth committee that we're gonna go with surviving to thriving. And he was saying many times in our Christian experience, we're kind of in survival mode. We're in survival mode. We're not quite where we know we should be, but we're just about, we're going and we're on a jump start. We're going on a, I don't know, I'm telling that story, but you guys were here on the Friday Focus last night. Should I just say it?
Yeah.
No, we haven't got time. So you should have been at Friday Focus last night. Anyway, many people are on survival mode. But I think, in my personal view, that surviving or thriving might be a bit black and white. Might be a bit black and white. I think somebody could be thriving and surviving simultaneously.
Okay.
And somebody could be, which way did it just say? Did it just say surviving and thriving? And the opposite way as well, to whatever I just said. And I think maybe what God is trying to get us to do, let me see if I can get this thing to work for me. Go back. There we go. Title. There we go. Title. As we go through, I think that maybe God's going to take us through a process where, though we're simultaneously surviving and thriving, whatever state that we're in, we're still growing.
Alright.
So we'll see how we go as we go through. Yesterday we looked at growth in the room over there. And we looked at a parable in Luke chapter 13, where Jesus tells a parable of a fig tree that should be bearing figs, but it isn't bearing figs. So it's surviving, it's growing, but it's not thriving, it's not producing figs. Today we're going to look at growth again in the concept or in the context of this surviving, thriving theme, but from a slightly different angle. Here we go. Next slide. Please. Behold, I stand at the door and knock, Revelation 3:20. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. I believe that everybody in here at some stage has heard the knock of Jesus Christ on their heart's door. So we'll see how we go as we go. Some people have heard it through a parent. Son, I don't think you should go there tonight. Some people have heard it through a teacher. Have you done your revision? Some people have heard it through a friend. Why don't you come to church tomorrow? At some stage, everybody's heard the knock of Jesus Christ in their life at some stage. I heard the knock. Hit the next slide for me, please. I can read that. Let me see. 2000. 14th of October, 2000, Westport Seventh-day Adventist Church. Not October. October?
November. Wait.
What's going on? Hold on. Yeah. October 2000. And if you hit the next slide for me, please. Young boy at the time. And I heard the knock of Jesus Christ. And I responded to the call. Hit the next slide for me, please. This is way back. Dug out some couple of photos. Go back 2 slides. Back 2 slides. Stay with me. Back. Yeah, there we go. I wish that from then until now, stay with me. From then until now, I wish I could say it's been smooth sailing. Like that young boy that was in the picture has got so much potential. But I know that young boy has not necessarily lived up to the full heights of what he could have been. I wish that from then till now I could stand before you and say I've kept to my baptismal vows. But the reality is, I haven't. Some people get disfellowshipped because the church finds out, and some people don't get disfellowshipped, but God knows. And what I'm learning in my Christian experience is that sometimes as a Christian and as a young person, as an older person, as you get baptized, as you follow the call of Jesus Christ in your life, there's going to come times and experiences that you'll experience whereby it's going to feel as though everything is on top of you. It's almost going to feel like you've got concrete on top of you. You make a mistake. And the guilt of that mistake is kind of making you feel as though I'm not really on the church thing at the moment. Or I'm not praying as much as I should be because I know that I'm doing X, Y, and Z, but I know I'm supposed to be singing and praising tomorrow, but Chisha, I'm not feeling very well. Can you come to cover for me, please? And many times, the Christian needs to recognize that despite the concrete that gets placed on them, despite the bad times that may come in their way, maybe you lose a loved one, maybe something happens to you, despite the fact that maybe, I don't know, marital relationship breakdown, despite all the situations that take place in your life, the Christian has to recognize that despite those things, they've got to grow through it.
Yes, that's right.
They're going to grow through it. Skip on to the slide, people, I need you with me. Skip on 2 slides with me, please. Fret not, we're going somewhere. The picture with the lily. There we go. Have you ever seen a flower grow through concrete?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a flower grow through concrete? Have you ever seen grass come up through the street? If you put down concrete and you haven't put down weed killer before you put the concrete down, be careful. Because the grass will grow through. Now, it's an interesting thing. That something that's so solid, that's so impenetrable, something that seems so, there's no way through, something so small as a seed can burst through what seems to be impenetrable. The way the lily grows through the concrete is that the lily is reaching for the sun. Reaching for the sun. Reaching. I don't know if you've ever seen a time lapse of flowers. You'll see them pointing towards the sun as it rises in the east or the west? East. It's pointing to the sun as it's rising to the east, and it's following it around as it goes to the west, reaching for the sun. And as it reaches for the sun, it manages to break through what seems to be impenetrable. The Christian experience comes with concrete. Hit the next slide for me, please. You know what? We might have to dead the slides. Luke 12:27 puts it this way. Consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not, and yet I say to you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like unto one of these things. Now, I'm going to ask you to turn with me, please, to 2 Corinthians 11, and we're going to read verses 24 to 27. Just to say this, that the Christian experience comes with concrete. The Christian's not immune to concrete. The Christian's not immune to bad things happening to them. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 24 to 27. Paul gives his resume of things that have happened to him. Of the Jews, 5 times received I 40 stripes save one. Thrice was I beaten with rods. Once was I stoned. Thrice I suffered shipwreck. A night and a day I've been in the deep. In journeyings often. In perils of waters. In perils of robbers. In perils by mine own countrymen. In perils by the heathen. In perils in the city. Perils in the sea. In perils among false brethren. In weariness and painfulness. In watchings often. In hunger and thirst. In fastings often. In cold and nakedness. Beside those things which that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Paul says, well, since I've started this Christian journey, something's happened. I've been stoned. I've been beaten. I've been shipwrecked. I've been abandoned. You name it, it's happened to me. In fact, I've been left out naked. Do you know what naked is? No clothes. Paul says, the Christian experience comes with bad things happening to you. God came down from heaven and they killed him. If they killed him, don't think you're special. And so, because the Christian experience comes with bad things happening to them, what we need to do is we need to develop a growth mindset. Stay with me. Growth mindset. Joseph has a growth mindset. Can I use this? Thank you, sir. That was quick off the market. Joseph has a growth mindset. He's sold by his brothers. Now just catch that. If that's me, after I've been sold by my brothers, don't speak to me about church because I'm not interested. God has given up on me. And so because he's given up on me, I'm not interested. And the whole Christianity thing has obviously not worked out because I've just been sold. But Joseph isn't small-minded. He realizes that despite the fact that he's in not necessarily the best of situations, he recognizes that God can turn all things around for his good. So, he ends up in Potiphar's house. Now stay with me. Whilst he's in Potiphar's house, he's doing his best. He's becoming more and more of what he knows God would have him to do. He's doing his best whilst he's in Potiphar's house. And he becomes the manager in Potiphar's house. He's growing. Despite the circumstance that he's in, he's growing. Despite the position in which he finds himself, he's becoming more of a better person in the situation that he's in. And whilst he's in the situation that he's in, he gets sent into prison. Joseph, I thought you were growing, but you've just got lower. From prison, Joseph grows out of prison and becomes the manager of the country. Joseph understands something. He understands that despite where you are, surviving, thriving, the question is am I progressing? Have I decided deep down within that I'm going to do the right thing because it's right and leave the consequences with God? Joseph has a growth mindset. Daniel is a captive. He's taken from Jerusalem over to Babylon and he's put under the care of the captain of the eunuchs. Now the captain of the eunuchs looks after eunuchs. This is PG. But you know a eunuch, those who know what a eunuch is, you know what it is, don't you? And the process wasn't a medical injection. You understand what I'm saying, don't you? At that stage, forget the whole brother situation with Joseph, I'm giving up on God. But Daniel isn't small-minded. And so because he isn't small-minded, and he's got a growth mindset, he decides to push beyond the circumstances and he becomes the prime minister of the country. Now, I've got a question. How does one, in the situation that they find themselves, with the concrete of life that's been placed on them, decide, and how did they not only decide to, but how did they actually go beyond their circumstances and grow through? I'm going to give you a few things. First one, don't look to what you don't have. Look to what you do have. Moses had to free the children of Israel. And he's looking in there, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And God asked him, what have you got in your hand? He said, I've got a rod. The widow comes to Elisha and says, you know, the debtor and the tax collectors come to get my kids because my husband's died, and I'm not sure how I'm going to pay him. And Elisha asked her, what have you got in your house? She said, I've got a jar of oil. Jesus asked the disciples, we need to feed these 5,000, and they're like, feed 5,000? We haven't got enough money for that. How you gonna feed 5,000? Jesus like, what we got? What have we got? And then he goes, we got 5 loaves and 2 fish. What you do is, when you're going through, don't look to what you don't have. See what you do have. And when you use what you do have, God's got a type of maths that he deals with. You do your part, he does his part. And as he does his part, what he does is that he enables you to grow through. He enables you to grow through. The thing that Daniel and Joseph did, which also helped them to grow through, is that they had the right focus. If it was me, all the time I'm in Joseph's, Potiphar's house, I'm plotting revenge on the brothers. That's my game. If I'm Daniel, I'm trying to overtake Nebuchadnezzar. I'm not trying to help him. Are you with me? But Daniel and Joseph didn't get caught up in revenge. They didn't get caught up in revenge. They didn't get caught up in trying to get back at people. And so because they had the right focus, it enabled them to develop and to grow. First of all, use what you've got and allow God to use you. Second of all, ensure that your focus is pointed towards the Son of Righteousness. Don't get caught up in revenge. Romans 12:19 says this, dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. And Galatians 6:7 puts it this way, be not deceived, God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And Ecclesiastes 12:14 puts it this way, for God shall bring every work into judgment, with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Develop a growth mindset. And break through the concrete. Surviving to thriving. Revelation 14:7, if you can turn there please. I want us to show us something quickly. We'll make a couple more points and then we'll start wrapping things up. Revelation 14:7. The Bible says, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. At this moment in time, according to the Bible, we're living in the time of God's investigative judgment. Let me explain that. As I'm getting older, my fashion sense is becoming older. So, my 12-year-old cousin was telling me that my trainers were dead. So I thought, let me take a leaf out of his fashion sense. So I'm at Foot Locker, and I'm realizing, due to the expense, why my trainers are dead. So I go JD's, I'm trying on trainers. I go Foot Locker, I'm trying on trainers. And I'm investigating, I'm looking, I'm seeing, I'm noticing, I'm trying things on. And as I'm trying things on, I move from the stage of I'm deciding to the stage of I've decided. So once I've decided, I take the trainers to the till, or I tell the person to take the trainers to the till, and I action the decision that I've decided. So I've gone from investigating what trainers I want to now I'm executing the decision that I've made. So there's 2 phases to the decision that I made. There was this phase in which I was deciding, and then there's the phase in which I'm executing the results of my investigation. Does that make sense? Right now, we're living in the time of God's investigative judgment. God's looking. He's seeing. He's noticing. He sees every thought, every act, every motion, every intent of the heart. He knows every single conversation, every single text message, every single Snapchat, every single Instagram that's ever been sent on the planet. He sees it all. The investigative judgment primarily isn't for God. The unfallen worlds are looking on, and as they're looking on and they're seeing and they're noticing, God's looking for something. What's he looking for? Has this individual chosen me? Have they given me their affections? Have they given me their bodies? Have they given me their words? Have they given me their time? Have they decided, despite the circumstances that they find themselves in, to continue to grow through? Have they decided? Jesus Christ came down to earth to show us the way in which you grow through. And I want to read that for you, and then we'll close. John 18, and I'm going to be reading from verse 28. Then led they Jesus from Caiaphas unto the hall of judgment. Listen very carefully. And it was early, and they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover. Pilate then went out unto them and said, What accusation bring ye against this man? They answered and said unto him, If he were not a malefactor, we would not have delivered him unto thee. Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him, and judge him according to your law. The Jews therefore said unto him, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death, that the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which he spake, signifying the death he should die. Then Pilate entered into the judgment hall again, and called Jesus, and said unto him, Art thou the King of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Sayest thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Thine own nations and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. Listen carefully to the story. Pilate therefore said unto him, Art thou a king then? Jesus answered, Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. Pilate said unto him, What is truth? And when he had said this, he went out again into the Jews, and said unto them, I find no fault at all. In him no fault at all. But ye have a custom, that I should release unto you one at the Passover. Will ye therefore that I release unto you the King of the Jews? Then they cried all again, saying, Not this man, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. Then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him. That means he whipped him. And the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and put it on his head. And they put a robe of purple on him. And said, Hail, King of the Jews! And they smote him with their hands. Pilate therefore went forth and said unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that ye may know that I find no fault in him. Then came Jesus forth, bearing the crown of thorns, and the purple robe. And Pilate said unto them, Behold the man. When the chief priests therefore and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him! Crucify him! Pilate said unto them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and said unto Jesus, Whence art thou? But Jesus gave him no answer. Then said Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee, and have power to release thee? Jesus answered, Thou couldst have no power against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that hath delivered thee unto me hath the greater sin. And from thenceforth, listen to these words, Pilate sought to release him. But the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Jesus forth and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in the Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was the preparation of the Passover. And about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, Behold your king. But they cried out, Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him! Pilate saith unto them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified. And they took Jesus and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, verse 17, went forth into a place called the skull, which in the Hebrew is called Golgotha. You've got to read this story with a caution. The reason why you've got to read it with a caution is because this story is happening in the room this afternoon. How did Jesus Christ grow through this particular situation? The way he was able to grow through this particular situation is that he decided to grow through not at the time of the situation. Stay with me. Thank you kindly. These guys were searching for tissues for a long time or something. He decided to grow through not at the time of the situation. A few days before, a couple chapters before, Jesus is in Gethsemane. Now, I don't know if you ever noticed. He takes the disciples, and he takes a few of them so far. Then he takes Peter, James, and John a bit further on. And then he goes up a bit further on and he prays by himself. Have you ever wondered why he did that? Why have you taken some so far, then you've gone up and you've prayed a bit further on by yourself? Imagine if Jesus had turned to Peter and said, Peter, I'm thinking about going to the cross. What do you think? Jesus would never have gone. On his knees, Jesus Christ received the strength that he needed to grow through. On his knees. I'm learning that prayer isn't simply about me trying to get what I want from God, but it's more about God trying to get me to the place where he can give me what he wants. And I'm realizing that in order for me to go from simply surviving to thriving to doing whatever, but actually bearing fruit in my life, it's going to take a connection that isn't necessarily influenced by all the influences around me. I need to make time and create a space where God can speak to me directly. And guess what? If you haven't planned it, you better plan it before God demands it. Everybody's got concrete. Everybody's got concrete. Some people's concrete is family back home consistently begging them for money. Some people's concrete is their home life. That's some people's concrete. Some people's concrete at the moment is uni. Everyone's got concrete. Some people's concrete at the moment is their boss at work. Some people's concrete is their children. Some people's concrete is their Adventist spouse. And I'm realizing They made me an elder when I was quite young, and I got exposed to a lot of situations. And I've been realizing is that not everything's picture perfect in church. And although that young boy didn't become all that he needed to be, and he isn't everything that he is right now, God's still expecting him to still grow through. And he's expecting him to grow through by using the resources that he's placed in his hands. He's expecting him to grow through by allowing him to rely on Jesus Christ. And he's expecting him to grow through by building a relationship with him. He's expecting him to grow through. A young boy in Florida. He's outside playing in a lake. Alligators are there. Why he's playing in a lake with alligators, I don't know. America. This is being recorded, isn't it? We love you. So he's there, and he doesn't realize there's alligators in the lake, with no fairness to him. As he's playing in the lake, Mum looks out through the window, and she sees an alligator coming towards him. So she runs out, she's screaming, come back to the dock, come back to the dock. He's trying to swim back to the dock. As she's coming to swim towards the dock, the alligator's coming towards him. So now he's in a situation, he's just about to get out onto the dock. Mum grabs the boy, but the alligator snaps on his legs. Are you hearing me? So now you've got a tug of war. There's a tug of war. Now obviously alligators are stronger than mums. But in the instance, in the situation, you know, you get that adrenaline rush. So now Mum's got him and she's digging in. She's digging in, she's digging in, she's digging in, she's digging in. The alligator's got his thing, but she's digging in, she's screaming. And as she's screaming, a farmer's alert, and he comes and shoots the alligator, and obviously the boy has to go to the hospital. Now you know America, they hype the whole thing up. So now the news reporters come down, man's in hospital. And as he's going through, you know, can you tell us about your experience? Can you show us your scars? Can you show us your scars? He shows the scars of where the alligator bit him. He said, these are the ones where the alligator bit me. But he goes, but I'm proud of these ones. And he shows the scars of where the mum had held him and saved his life. And he goes, these are the scars that show that my mum saved me. Tonight, I don't know what scars, not tonight, this afternoon, I don't know what scars you have. And I don't know what concrete you've been through. But I do know that God's trying to pull you through. And as he's trying to pull you through, and he's trying to get you to help you to grow, sometimes that might be a painful process. But I want to let you know that despite whether you're surviving or thriving, you can still grow. And in the situation, in the circumstance that you find yourself in, if Jesus Christ did it, he's created the power and he's given you the opportunity to grow through whatever concrete you find yourself through. You can grow through. You can grow through. You can burst through. I saw this afternoon, because I know everybody has concrete. And everyone's got particular circumstances, and everyone's got particular situations that they know that they need to grow beyond. And just like the lily can grow through concrete, just like grass can come through pavement, I'm saying that the God of the Bible can help you grow. If it's your desire. This afternoon, just a little mini appeal, nothing dramatic. You know you've got some concrete that you need to grow through. And by God's grace, you're determining that I'm going to grow beyond my circumstances. I'm going to invite you to come, and I want to pray for you. That's your desire. You've got concrete, but you want to grow through. I'm going to invite you to come. Maybe you don't know how you're going to grow through. Maybe your concrete is you think everything's okay, not realizing that that's your concrete. I'm inviting you to come. Heavenly Father, what I've realized in my Christian experience is that everybody wants the victory, but nobody wants the fight. You've told us to forget those things which are behind, but to press towards the mark of the high calling which is in Christ Jesus. And I'm recognizing, dear Heavenly Father, that everybody's got scars and everybody's gone through their process and everybody's got concrete and not everyone's perfect. But dear Lord, as you help us to grow, help us to realize and reach and actualize the potential that you've placed within us. Help us to grow beyond our circumstances. To be the people that you've called us to be. And that in these last days, as people see us growing, please may it inspire somebody else to also grow. Help us to not be like that fig tree that didn't bear fruit. But dear Lord, help us to respond to your love and to your care. And be the people you've called us to be. Everyone that's come forward and everyone that hasn't come forward, dear Lord, I'm praying that you inspire them with the strength to grow. We're claiming the promise of Luke 11 verse 13, which says, if ye then being evil know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more shall your Heavenly Father give the Holy Spirit to those that ask him? I'm asking, dear Heavenly Father, that you will endow them with the Spirit. Help us, guide us, and lead us into your experience. These things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.